Matchbox in those early years of turning Matchbox around allowed me to then move up and do the same for Hot Wheels.
Yeah. I would love, I mean, that's just as an observer, I've kind of watched that. And I mean, I could go, Instagram gives us an hour. We've got 17 more minutes and I want to get into some more stuff. Those stories I think would be really cool. And the expansion, with these designers, and it's fun to see. I'm watching, I think you are too, June's comments about, obviously we got to get June's take on this. He'll probably refute some, but as a joke, I'm kidding. But he's clearly saying, he's been obviously influenced by you as well. It was interesting, and I really I actually was talking to Chris Granger at IWC, and I'm totally name dropping now because they're doing a collaboration with Hot Wheels right now, and he was telling me a story. This is something that we're going to put up on. I'm going to put up on a video later. That once they decided they wanted to, he was chance encounter with one of the Hot Wheels designers with Manson. He ends up at the Hot Wheels Design Center and sees his car, the car that IWC is doing, on the Hot Wheels board, and I said, that's when he mentioned it, he was so surprised to see it. I was like, there is no stone unturned at this point among both of the brands now, both of the Mattel brands. And you'll have a collector saying, hey, have you ever thought about doing such and such car? And it's like the designers will say, yes, we have. There is not a car that hasn't been considered at this point from anywhere. And just the time will come. I'll turn around here. He's talking about Rio. I never thought the day would come that the 5th generation Prelude would be done, and here it is. And Rio's done it for Hot Wheels, and he's done it brilliantly. And to think that something like this can come is pretty exciting. And I have to think you look at some of that stuff and say you have a little bit of pride in that some of the influence is there in terms of the international scope of these brands at this point.
Oh, like 100%, man. It used to be a bit. When I first got into it, it was very much designed by committee, right? The design team listened to the marketing guys a lot, and the marketing guys had all these fucking equations for the kind of cars they should do. And in terms of the overall, and I'm not knocking the guys because I love them all dearly.
Yeah.
But in terms of the worldview of the design team, it was very American centric. And I think that if I have a legacy that I would want to lay claim to, it was that I fought really hard, sometimes to my detriment, to get the guys the voice, to tell the marketing guys that they didn't know what they were talking about, and it was June and Ryu and those guys that knew what they were talking about, and they should listen to them. Yeah. And that's why you get these models that have their passions, but I like to think that. I got them the voice to make sure their passions were heard more loudly than some marketing equation, And that's where you get the variety from. That's where you get the differentiation. And I like to think over the past 50 years, before we even get into the originals and how Hot Wheels became confident as a design force. When I first started working in El Segundo, Hot Wheels was the job that people who were going to be car designers but couldn't be car designers had. And by the time I left, Hot Wheels was the company that car designers who'd worked in the industry, like big names, and I'm not joking, I'm not going to mention the names, but I was getting calls on a monthly basis from big names asking if they could come and work for Hot Wheels. Because we turned it around. We were like, look, man, I meet race drivers, car designers, athletes, movie directors, and every single one of them in the field says the reason they do what they do is because of Hot Wheels and Matchbox. Yeah. And so you also, you turned that around and you ended up with Hot Wheels actually having being a design icon rather than just a replicator, Right. And that was super important. And you still see that now.
Oh, I think it continues to move in that direction. You'd mentioned Hot Wheels for Real. That was something that happened over your time, and I think we're seeing extensions of that now, and the you know, the Legends Tour and things like that. Just Hot Wheels, just embedding itself. Hot Wheels has always been a moniker of car culture. Now it's embedding itself even more and more and more. And we've got a few minutes. Let's talk about that. And then I do want to, like, you showed some of your garage. I want to see some of those paintings. I shared one of them, that BMW that you did, and I want to see a couple of those before we have to sign off. This is going way too fast. I have like 8 billion other questions. So talk about that a little bit.
At some point.
What?
We can do part 2 at some point.
Anytime. I'm always game.
So what, you want me to talk about the paintings?
Yeah, let's talk. I want to get the paintings in, and then if we have a little bit more time, because like the Hot Wheels for Real's cool. I was going to ask you about this. I want to know the story, and this will be part 2. I get everybody's take on the Alfa Romeo story and how stubborn they were with the colors. I always think that one's kind of fascinating. But we can go back into Matchbox time another time. But I want to see your paintings, and if we can get some up close, if there's a way to do it, I want to see them. To talk about that, because I can't remember what year you left Mattel. Obviously, you've been doing some stuff, so maybe you can talk about that a little bit and show us some of your paintings.
Yeah, so I got out of Mattel in 2000. Oh Christ, I can't remember. 5 years ago, 2015, I think. End of 2015, end of 2014, maybe. I honestly can't remember. It's been a blur. And I fell into tech. I left Mattel because I felt that the manufacturing paradigm wasn't really working for me anymore. And I wanted to explore, and I fell into tech. Without going too much into it, I've spent the past 5 years looking at the democratization of design, specifically car design.
Yeah.
The implications of artificial intelligence with VR, with cloud processing, with generative design, and what does the future look like for, you know, the amateur or the enthusiast, the hot rod builder, the garage creator, when you get into a world of accessible large-scale 3D printing. You mix that with artificial intelligence, which can do the engineering for you. So you can say, I want this engine, this suspension set, I want it to be a 2-seater, and then have artificial intelligence engineer a structure to hold all that together and have it be printed.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but we're there now. I mean, it's now, but in a couple of years' time, it's going to be cheap. So that's been my focus, and my focus still is very much on the tech end. What's happening in technology that's going to bring on the new generation of hot rodders, right? The hot rod culture that certainly Hot Wheels was based in came out of kids in garages. They weren't old dudes. They were 16 that just got back from the war.
Yeah.
And they created cars that they couldn't buy, and those cars then changed the industry.
Yeah.
So that's been my journey since I left Mattel. How do you take the dream, the kids with the dream that are kids lying on their bellies playing with Hot Wheels, and how do you make it so that they can actually make their dreams a reality? And that's what I'm still very much focused on. And I could talk for another 5 hours on that.
Sure.
But in the meantime, the thing that's kept me relaxed is I paint. I always painted.
Yeah.
The way I made a living when I was in a rock and roll band in the UK before I moved out to California was that I painted, and I had a fairly successful career in the northeast of England painting buildings. And I did a couple of paintings while I was at Hot Wheels for charity, and they sold very well. But I assumed they sold well because of charity rather than because of my skill level.
Right.
And a friend of mine in the Porsche world lost his business in November to fire.
Yes.
And John Benton. And I had a painting of a Porsche that I'd done, and it was sitting on my wall, and I couldn't afford at the time to give it. I've been in startup land for 5 years.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to donate substantially, so I decided to donate the painting, and I listed it on Bring a Trailer, and I expected to maybe make a couple of $1,000s for him, and it went sky high. And I was encouraged from that to do another one. And so I did another painting, and that went sky high. And suddenly I've got an audience for painting. So what was just a hobby, I'm going to move around the garage a bit. And Dimitri, if you're watching, there's the hot rod, and it's nearly finished. It doesn't look like it, you cheeky bugger. But I have actually been... I have actually been sectioning and welding up and hand forming a 41 Merc dash to fit in my hot rod. So, you know, I'm not lying idle. So this is a new one I've just done. That's my BMW CSL, and that'll be going up for auction soon.
And is this on? Where do you where on auction? Like
I sell them on Bring a Trailer.
Okay.
So it's like straight to the heart of the market, but I found an audience there, and it's exciting, you know. Probably not the best shot of it. It's a bit glossy on there, and it's not quite done yet. I'm still working it a bit, but it's a combination of like graffiti stencil with hand painted with thick layered paint. I like to get the paint on really, really thick. Let me see if I can get a little bit of the detail on there.
Oh my gosh.
So suddenly, that was always my retirement plan, was to be an artist. And suddenly I'm like, maybe I'm just an artist. Maybe I'm not going to go back to executive life. Maybe I'm just going to paint paintings in my garage and build my hot rod.
You know, it sounds, in these days of COVID-19, that sounds like the most romantic thing yet. You're just sitting in your garage painting and working on your hot rod. It's
really hilarious. I mean, like, you know, I'm very privileged, really, I'm very privileged that I can do this, that I can be in my garage and work on my hot rod and paint paintings and you know, and make a living doing it. So, you know, I don't know what's next. I'm still very much involved in the tech thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I want to be in the future. I don't want to be in the past. You know, I mean, even though I've got an original built-in '53 hot rod sitting behind me, I believe in innovation and the future and building industry. You know, I want to give all those kids out there. I want to give all those kids out there who are the digital savvy tinkerers the chance to actually start companies and build stuff. You know,
it's like you can take that Hot Wheels world and just make it into, like, you just expand it into the big world. And I mean, it's into the real world, I guess is maybe the way to put it. But I remember Carroll Shelby, there was reading an article about it, something, and I don't know how the question was phrased, but he talked about at the time, you know, all the kids growing up with their Civics and tuning their Civics and all that stuff. And he says, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. He's like, it's the next generation of us hot rodders. And it looks like you're working on what the future is going to be, you know, from moving, you know, wherever that's going to move. So
yeah, I mean, imagine if you could actually build a real car as easily as doing it on Forza, like when you build your car in the garage, right? That shit could just be connected through the supply.
Like, how insane will that be? How insane will that be? Well, let's reserve another 5 hours for that, and another 5 hours for the past, and maybe we'll do like a Zoom meeting and get June in here and Rio and let them yell at you, and we can debate and talk about all the fun stuff. I would love to just get into that mess for a while and just talk about what you guys have done. Instagram's going to cut us off here in a few minutes, and they're here in a minute or two, I think, because I think they give us an hour to do this. But Felix, this has been everything I had hoped and more, to sit and chat with you, and a little bit different than I think chatting in an elevator in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You know, gives us a little bit of a chance to talk more. So.
One day, Jim, if you're listening, one day I'll get back to Albuquerque. You just have to, you know, get me the presidential suite or something.
He's the one who claims that. We got to kick him out. We'll put you.
That's exactly it, man. It's the Gallegos suite. No,
we'll have to get some sort of a reunion going, and that, you know, that's the great thing about that event is. Some people are like, why Albuquerque? And it's like, why not? Albuquerque's a cool place to go. And
the stories I can tell from the brief that I was there every year.
You know, there's a reason Walter White was there, right? He was just following in your footsteps, right?
Absolutely.
So, this has been so great, Felix. I'm gonna Instagram's a little stubborn on letting me save these, so I might literally screen capture this on my phone tomorrow, and maybe put this somewhere like on my YouTube channel or somewhere else so people can watch this, because I think this has been really fun. And for those that collect both of these brands, it's so fun to go back into this history and get to know a little bit. Oh, look at that.
Look at that. My first ever Hot Wheels car.
You still have it?
Yeah. There's a story, but I don't think I can get it in 3 minutes.
If you can do it in a minute, or we'll wait, save for part two, but if you can get it in, we'll get it.
I was given that in about 1975 by my grandma's friend when I was 3 years old. And I was lost forever when I left home. And just a few years ago, the first time I went home with my daughter, who was 2 at the time, I tipped out a box of toys at my mom's house, box of Lego, and at the bottom of that box was this car that my nieces had played with for the past 10 years. And it still runs perfectly straight. It still has its hood. The paint is a little more chipped than when I got it, but it is an original 68 Redline, and it was my first Hot Wheels car, the car that started my whole career. Still here.
Is unbelievable.
Now belongs to my daughter, but she ain't got it yet. She's only 6. She's not playing with it.
I'll give you $10 for it.
How about this one? You want to give me $10 for this one? I'm just showing you a couple of my what I've got left in the collection.
Yeah, I'll give you $10 for that.
There you go. There's the gold-plated MVOA drag bus. I think that's actually all I've got left in my collection. The rest of it's just a couple of my odds and
Well,
stuff.
then you don't need those. You can give them to me. I'll be happy to.
Oh, that one. How about that? That was my farewell gift. That's a 1/18th Astro Fund.
Oh, that's sweet.
Signed by the guys. Look at that.
They treat you guys well when you leave. They give you some cool stuff.
They do. They do. If they like you. If they don't like you, they just let you leave.
Well, I mean, they don't like you. They're kicking you out, right? They're getting rid of you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Hey, Felix, this has been awesome. Thanks a ton. I'm going to think of a billion more questions. We're going to ask them later. And you guys who are watching this, hello, Redline. June knows him. I know him. He's already bidding up. You can get him up to, he'll spend anything on everything. So don't worry, like work him up to any price you want. He'll definitely pay for it. So anyway, this has been awesome. We're within a minute, so I'll let you go. I'm going to sign up too. I hope everyone enjoyed this. If you have other questions, send them to me and we'll get you back on and we'll ask them again.
Cool.
Felix. Hey,
all
thanks, right. Felix. We'll see you.
Good stuff.
Bye.
Peace out.